Mental telepathy is the concept that humans can read each other's minds. Empathy is the concept that we can feel each other's emotions. Both are a breach of boundaries. You don't know how I feel. I have to grant you access. I have to tell you how I feel. I have to be good at describing how I feel. You have to understand the words I use, and you have to interpret them in the way that I want you to. And I have to be being honest with you, and after all this, you have to believe me. And on top of that, you have to care in the first place. And at that point, what we're back to talking about is trust. And trust, unlike empathy, is something that can be demonstrated. The money in your pocket, its value is based on trust. Trust demonstrated. And also, trust, unlike empathy, is something that can change at any moment. You can lose trust in another human being real easily. Sympathy and compassion exist. Intelligence, kindness, forgiveness exist. We know these things exist because they can be demonstrated. And even if empathy does exist, it's meaningless. The experiment with the one rat freeing the other rat was trapped. It did not prove that rats have empathy. Saying that robs that individual rat of his personal agency. That rat was a hero, but empathy says, well, no, it was by nature. His empathy compelled him to act. Nothing is by nature. Either you do something or you don't. How many rats failed the test? Were the rats that failed the test deemed narcissistic? Because if they were, then we're right back where we started. Because if empathy and narcissism are equal, then they're one and the same, two sides of the same coin, God and the devil, good and evil, which means it's one thing, just with different outcomes depending upon the source, which deems it meaningless. Saying you're a kind person because you have empathy is meaningless. It's redundant. It's like saying you are religious because you believe in God. You can't show me you have empathy, but you can demonstrate to me that you're a kind person. Just like how you can show me that you're religious, but you can't physically show me you're God. Ever heard of mood rings? The stone inside was supposed to change colors depending upon your mood. Does that stone have empathy? Because if it does, then empathy doesn't take much intelligence. This is why we listen to music, watch films, read books, invent gods, and look for love. Because we're all searching for something that we can trust, something that we can reflect on personally that will validate our existence. We don't want to be alone. But when you fall in love with somebody, it's not because you let down your boundaries, it's just the opposite. It's because you had matching boundaries. It's because the more you got to know the person, the more you found you were the same. Emotional bonds are based on trust, not empathy. Even when you're with someone intimately, you're both having different experiences. Otherwise, there would be no point in existing. Saying you know how someone feels is like saying you have God powers. A big reason why people become religious is to feel like someone or something understands the way they feel, so that they're not alone with their feelings. Every single one of us feels different, and that's the magic. Our emotions are as unique as our fingerprints. I remember when my mother taught me the word empathy. It might be the only word I remember learning. She said it was like sympathy, but if you shared the same experience as someone, you could empathize. And I thought that was cool. Like I had this magic power I shared with other human beings. But no, the second you examine it, it falls apart. It was cooked up by Jung, who believed in ghosts and had nothing but good things to say about narcissism. And it has been used by people like L. Ron Hubbard to psychologically abuse people with his e-meter. E-meters don't work, and neither do lie detectors. They're junk, and it's because empathy is bunk science. Being a caring person and being honest is the best you can do. If the majority of people you interact with are kind, then there's no reason to not be kind as well. And life is easier when people are kind towards one another. Kindness is a survival skill.